It's Tuesday, March 22. In the headlines, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge set to visit today amid plans of protest. Temporary teachers to help students recover from learning loss. A $70 million development project for Devon House. Regionally, CTU launches regional projects to improve the quality of internet service. And in sports, West Indies women beaten by Pakistan. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom Gill. Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clarke, will close the budget debate today, March 22, in the House of Representatives. On March 8, Dr. Clarke proposed to spend a total of $912 billion for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. This is comprised of non-debt recurrent expenditure of $539.5 billion, capital expenditure of $65.1 billion, and debt servicing of $307.5 billion. Overall revenues are estimated at $906.4 billion, leaving a $5.6 billion gap, which the government proposes to be funded by utilizing prior year cash balances. In light of this, Minister Clarke announced no new taxes, indicating that this is the fifth consecutive year where no new taxes are being levied, and the seventh consecutive year when viewed on a net basis. Join us live at 2 p.m. on PBC Jamaica and all our social media channels. Government will be providing $1 billion in the upcoming fiscal year for the employment of temporary teachers to help students recover from learning loss experienced during the disruption of face-to-face classes. Prime Minister Andrew Holness shared that, according to a UNESCO report, schools closure impacted approximately 1.6 billion children, or 94% of the world's student population. He gave special thanks to all involved who continued to look out for the best interest of the Jamaican student.
I want to thank the many principals, teachers, school workers, parents, and students who have done their best to persevere in the most difficult circumstances. Nothing could have given me more satisfaction than to see our children returning to full face-to-face school.
The help for students will be primarily facilitated through the Ministry of Education and Youth's Extra Lessons program.
Since the recent launch of our Extra Lesson program to help with the recovery of 2,100 students, 2,100 students have registered for the online Extra Lesson program, and 11,926 students have registered and are now engaged in face-to-face extra lessons. 6,175 secondary students and 5,751 primary students. I want to encourage all our students and parents to take advantage of this extra lesson support to begin to make up for the learning loss.
The Prime Minister also shared that systematic changes will be coming to the education system to deal with three fundamental issues: the quality of education and alignment with the future job market, the restoration of our societal values, and to address long-standing issues of inequity in our system.
We now have the report on the Education Transformation Commission, chaired by Professor Orlando Pattison, which provides us with a solid blueprint for recommendations for the way forward. The Ministry of Education and Youth has begun its analysis of the report and recommendations. Madam Speaker, one of our challenges as a country has been implementation. In order to ensure that the Commission's recommendations are implemented, I will appoint an Education Transformation Oversight Committee, ETOC, drawn from members of the Commission and key stakeholders, including the opposition, that will be responsible for monitoring and publicly reporting on the progress of implementation of the recommendations.
The royals are set to arrive in Jamaica today. Prince William, Duke of Cambridge, and Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge, is due to arrive at the Norman Manley International Airport shortly after 2 p.m. But a group from the Advocates Network are in protest of the visit and plan to use the 3-day visit to press its demand for an apology for, quote, British crimes against humanity, including but not limited to the exploitation of indigenous people of Jamaica, the transatlantic trafficking of Africans, the enslavement of Africans, indentureship, and colonization, end quote. The visit of William and Kate forms part of celebrations marking the 70th anniversary Platinum Jubilee of the coronation of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. The group has been given permission by the police to stage a protest in front of the British High Commission on Trafalgar Road in Kingston. After leaving Jamaica on March 24, the royal couple will round out their tour of the Caribbean in the Bahamas. Promoters must get the requisite approvals before staging entertainment events and continue their vigilance against the coronavirus. This was made clear by Minister of Local Government and Rural Development Desmond McKenzie. He says despite the withdrawal of the Disaster Risk Management Act, the DRMA, the virus still poses risks to the well-being of many persons and they must act for their own safety. The courtyard of the historic Devon House in St. Andrew is to be spruced up under a $70 million project. Minister of Tourism Edmund Bartlett broke ground to undertake the beautification project during a ceremony at the courtyard recently. Anna K. Simpson has more in this report.
Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says this new development thrust aims to position Kingston, particularly Devon House, as the gastronomy center of the Caribbean and arguably the Western world.
Gastronomy represents, as you know, the centerpiece of the consumption patterns of visitors across the world. 42% of the expenditure of the visitor is on food. And if in 2019 they spent $9 trillion moving across borders, do the math, 42% of that is huge. It's just a little over $4 trillion.
Mr. Bartlett says that gastronomy for tourism is the #1 pillar of growth, and Devon House is going to be the standard for the presentation of Destination Kingston.
To make the courtyard a place of glory, a place of allurement, a place of excitement, a place of aesthetics, a place that you want to be, to have yourself a sense of place.
The minister says the intention is to improve the aesthetics and functional appeal of Devon House for local and foreign visitors. And with the improvements, he wants Jamaicans to see Devon House as theirs.
We want Devon House to be your place, your house, your lawn, your courtyard. And we're going a little further from that, but I won't want to say too much about that because I'm speaking on the 5th of April. In my budget presentation, and I have a fulsome presentation on this Devon House development and where we are going in building out the experience.
Member of Parliament for St. Andrew Northeast, Delroy Chuck, also welcomed the initiative as an additional incentive to attract more visitors and to welcome back locals to Devon House.
This complex stands out in Kingston as an area that all Jamaica can visit. And they do visit on a regular basis. And with the pandemic coming to a close, I have no doubt that Devon House will be one of the, not only entertainment area, but somewhere that people gather as they did before the pandemic. There are so many facilities here in Devon House that I'm sure we can tell Jamaica, here is where you can visit and have fun.
Devon House, which is one of Jamaica's most celebrated historic landmarks, was the residence of George Steeble in the 1800s, who is touted as Jamaica's first black millionaire. Work on the property is to be completed in 6 months and will be monitored by the Tourism Enhancement Fund. For the news on PBCJ, I am Anna K. Simpson.
More than $20.74 billion is being spent to carry out activities under the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. Representatives from the National Road Operating and Construction Company, the NROCC, gave an update on the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project during a JIS think tank recently. The project includes the May Penn to Williamsfield bypass and the Montego Bay Perimeter Road project. Senior manager at NROC, Fitz Sawyers, says all required designs have been reviewed by the SJE consultants.
And the material used under the project are undertaken efficiently, in best practices, and in compliance with the employer's requirement and the specification, the contract documents. The entire alignment will have a grade-separated intersection, including railroad crossings. The horizontal and vertical clearance of these crossings shall comply with AASHTO and NWA standards for local roads and will be approved by NROC and NWA respectively.
It's been explained that the project seeks to improve the alignment and capacity of the existing Southern Coastal Main Arterial Road so that it will be safe and efficient, free from flooding, and provide for future development.
Existing pipe and box culverts on the roadways will be cleaned or improved and new ones added to provide an adequate drainage system. Key pre-construction tasks includes reviewing the construction methodology and work schedule program, conducting review of the design analysis of the highway geometry, structural and geotechnical components, hydrology, hydraulics, and associated civil works design prepared by the contractor.
The Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project, which began in 2017, is now slated to end March 2025, following several extensions. Up to December 2021, the design for the May Penn to Williamsfield segment was 95% completed. 5 out of 15 pipeline contracts were completed. March 23 will see the official launch of the Bushfire Warning Index. This was shared by Director of the Met Service, Evan Thompson, who says this day will also mark World Meteorological Day. The establishment of the Bushfire Warning Index and Management System began in 2019 with the Met Service and the Jamaica Fire Brigade compiling information on bushfire occurrences to create a preemptive tool for their prediction.
We are now at the end stage of this project, and in this case we are launching the index because it has been developed by the Met Service. It's a customized index that is going to be speaking about the how do we recognize that bushfires are likely to develop because of climatic conditions.
Mr. Thompson pointed out that the Bushfire Warning Index began in 2 pilot communities in St. Elizabeth and Clarendon, parishes known for cases of bushfires. He also shared other plans for the commemoration of the World Meteorological Day.
We also want to highlight is the work of a project that is called Building Resilience Through Climate Adaptation Technologies. It also looks at how we warn our publics and how we have early warning as well as encourage early action. Early action speaks about making the forecast a little bit more than what we're accustomed to seeing. We always put out our forecasts that indicate what the weather is going to be, but our intention as we look at the action that needs to be taken by our publics is to think about what the weather will actually do.
Also speaking at the Jamaica Information Services think tank was Robert Tull, Weather and Climate Communication Advisor with UK-based Resurgence. He says his company is on the island to help improve the way Jamaicans receive their weather updates.
One of the things we're going to do is make weather information much more easily available on your smartphone. And this will happen in a number of ways, but the big way we hope to do it is through the creation of a weather app for Jamaica. There are 1.5 million Jamaicans who have smartphones, and now you have the possibility to have information about the weather exactly in the place where you are for today and the next 5 days on your smartphone whenever you want to look at it. And not only will it give you the weather, it will also give you early warnings, if there are any, right there in the weather forecast, and let you know if any high impact weather is coming up that may affect you.
The launch of the Bushfire Warning Index on World Meteorological Day is significant, as the theme for this year's commemoration is early warning and early action, highlighting the important part hydrometeorological and climate information plays in disaster risk reduction. The index will be launched at the University of the West Indies, Mona, on March 23 at 10 a.m. Time now for a look at the latest market updates in the Business Report with Danita Rodney.
In foreign exchange trading for Monday, March 21, the US dollar sold for an average of $153.60. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $122.04. The pound sterling traded for $200.78, and the euro sold for an average of $172.65. The following reflects the movements of the JSE indices in Monday's trading session. The JSE index advanced by 3,059 points to close at over 300,000 units. The junior market index declined by 38 points to close at over 4,000 units. The combined market index advanced by 2,519 points to close at over 300,000 units. And the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 5,036 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 104 stocks, of which 46 advanced, 43 declined, and 15 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 1834 Investments Limited, Barita Investments Limited, and Caribbean Cement Company Limited. Stocks declined for AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, Berger Paints Jamaica Limited, and Blue Power Group Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, CAC 2009.5% cumulative redeemable preference shares, and 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited variable preference. Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares was the volume leader with over 32 million units, followed by Edufocal Limited with over 29 million units, and JMMB Group Limited 7.35% cumulative redeemable preference share with over 14 million units. For regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Clicker Investment Fund was the volume leader with over 40,000 shares, followed by Calypso Macro Index Fund with over 1,000 shares being traded. The Barbados Stock Exchange traded 0 securities on Monday. In market data for oil rose towards $116 a barrel on Tuesday, adding to a 7% surge the previous day. Brent crude rose 26 cents or 0.2% to $115.88 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude slipped 10% to $112.02 a barrel. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, in Barbados, there really shouldn't be a big reason for pause. That was the assertion of independent Senator Kevin Boyce as the Upper House debated the constitutional amendment bill, which, among other changes, sought to make way for people to be included in the Houses of Parliament from age 18.
When I first heard of lowering the age to 18, I felt funny about it. The reason is because I could only act on my own personal experience. And at 18, I didn't have the maturity that I should be put anywhere near a House of Parliament, sir. But I was able to recognize that not all persons have my feelings, sir. And I had to force myself not to practice inverse ageism, where I say, well, the youth don't know what they do, and I have to accept. They recognize and they are extremely articulate. Sir, the question of the youth and the age to serve, when considered in the Ford report, was also raised. There were arguments for the age to be raised. However, it was accepted that 21 was the age. I believe, sir, that this is a question which I think it really shouldn't be a big reason for pause.
This comes off the heels of Prime Minister Mia Mottley nominating 18-year-old Khalil Kothidwala to be appointed as senator. Ms. Mottley has now opted not to pursue this change, as it is clear she does not have sufficient votes to pass the amendment. In Bahamas, Free National Movement Senator Michaela Ellis is hitting out at the Davis administration for what she claims is the failure to do more to assist residents who are being burdened by inflation.
I know the increased prices, inflation, are as a result of external factors, but the impact hits very close to home. It's in our pockets, our wallets, our fridges, our cupboards, and our gas tanks.
Senator Ellis, who was making her contribution to the mid-year budget debate in the Senate, pointed to the fact that neighboring countries like the Turks and Caicos and Barbados have taken steps to mitigate effects of rising prices.
In Turks and Caicos, they have reduced taxes and processing fees on fuel for a period of 6 months. In Barbados, VAT payable on fuel has been reduced for at least 6 months. And then adding insult to injury, Barbados has decided to remove VAT from feminine products, diapers, antiperspirants, vitamins, and multi-minerals. It is the age-old problem of expenses increasing and our salaries are not. If we are lucky enough to have one.
In St. Lucia, motorists are paying more at the fuel pump, but according to Prime Minister and Finance Minister Pbcj, the impact of soaring crude oil prices on the international market has been cushioned by the government's decision to absorb import costs. Although retail gas and diesel prices at the pumps have jumped, without Prime Minister's intervention, motorists would have been paying more than $18 per litre.
The ripple effect of a global oil market in panic mode has made a splash on St. Lucian fuel pumps. Retail gas and diesel prices are up by $1 from $13.95 to $14.95 as of March 21st. The current prices will hold for the next 3 weeks, incongruous with government's price review system. At $14.95 per gallon, motorists are paying the most for gas and diesel in 7 years. However, Prime Minister and Finance Minister Pbcj estimates retail fuel prices would have been even higher had it not been for his decision to absorb the increases by subsidizing the excise tax rate.
If our government was to adopt the $4 per gallon excise taxes as budgeted by the United Workers' Party at current prices, the price of gasoline would be $18.68 and diesel $18.75 per gallon. Government has decided to strike a balance between having to subsidize fuel and protecting the consumer from a very steep increase in prices at the pump.
The petrol price jump at the local pump has been ameliorated for now. Experts blame the price hike on Russia's invasion of Ukraine and lingering supply chain issues caused by the pandemic.
And in news coming out of Trinidad and Tobago, the Organization for Regional Telecommunications, the Caribbean Telecommunications Union, CTU, has launched a regional project tasked with improving the quality of internet service in countries such as Guadeloupe, Bartholomew, and St. Martin. TTT Live has the story.
The Caribbean Telecommunications Union has launched a regional project aimed at improving the quality of internet service in Guadeloupe, St. Bartholomew, and St. Martin. The CTU says it will provide technical guidance on setting up the Operation Internet Exchange Points in all 3 territories. An Internet Exchange Point is a piece of internet infrastructure that allows network operations to interconnect their networks to exchange traffic locally without having to resort to expensive international infrastructure. Special Advisor to the CTU, Bevel Wooding, says the project is timely, given that these French-speaking territories need significant improvement to their internet service.
This is happening against the backdrop of an ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. And that too has influenced or informed how we structure the approach. And it has also highlighted the benefits that this project is expected to bring.
Meanwhile, Director of Business Development at the CTU, Gary Kalu, says the project now takes on a more aggressive approach to have it completed within a year.
We've had a timeline for the project for about 24 months. It has now been compressed to just over 8 months. And this has now imposed a more aggressive timeline on the project. And it has caused us to re-strategize on how we will approach the implementation aspects of the project.
There are hundreds of internet exchange points across the world, and the addition of these 3 points in the Caribbean will take the region's tally to 15.
In Guyana, in keeping with the push to mobilize and modernize the country's legislative landscape, the government has commenced the consolidation and revision of all the laws of Guyana. More news from News Source Guyana.
In keeping with this push to overhaul and modernize the country's legislative landscape, the Guyana government has commenced the consolidation and revision of all of the laws of Guyana. According to a statement from the Attorney General's chambers, the revision also includes principal and subsidiary legislation. The last consolidation and revision exercise was carried out prior to 2012. The exercise produced a 2012 revised edition of the laws of Guyana. The ministry said the process took place nearly 12 years ago, and the plethora of new laws have been promulgated since. Incorporating those laws into principal legislation and the consolidation of them have become necessary, as the Attorney General Chambers said. The Consolidation and Revision Initiative is a collaborative effort between the Law Revision Commission, a unit within the Attorney General's Chambers, and the Improved Access to Justice in the Caribbean project. The exercise is being spearheaded by the Regional Law Revision Center Incorporated and Anguilla Company. The Chamber of the Attorney General said the time is therefore ripe to produce a new volume of the laws of Guyana, which is current, comprehensive, and accurate. Quite importantly, the Attorney General's office said the process will also see the rectification of several deficiencies which afflicted the last revision exercise. Work has already started on the process, and it's expected to be completed by February of next year.
In sports, West Indies women surprisingly lost to Pakistan women by 7 wickets in their 6th game of the ICC Women's World Cup at Seddon Park Sunday night. The game was reduced to 20 overs per side because of a protracted delay at the start due to rain. Scores: West Indies women 89 for 7 off 20 overs, with Deandra Dotting hitting 27 and Nadar Dar for Pakistan taking 4 wickets for 10 runs. Pakistan women 90 for 2 off 18.5 overs, with Muniba Ali scoring 37 and Omeba Sohail 22 not out. West Indies will now have to beat South Africa in their final game on Wednesday to have any chance of qualifying for the semi-finals. And with that, we call an end to today's newscast. Thanks so much for watching.